And welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. I am Joe Concha with Heather Hansen, Rick Unger, and Lisa Jandovitz. Well, it's time for some potluck. Potluck is our segment, of course, where each of us brings a story to the table, just like someone would bring a dish to a potluck dinner. You got it? Okay, good. Let's start with Heather Hansen. What are you cooking up?
You know, everyone's watching the American Sniper trial, the trial of Eddie Ray Routh, who shot and killed Chris Kyle and his friend Chad Littlefield. And my issue is there's so much anger at Eddie Ray Routh for having killed Chris Kyle, and there's not a lot of anger at the VA, who are really the entity that put Eddie Ray Routh in this position.
How so?
He had been admitted to the VA 3 different times, the Dallas VA, which in the past has been called the worst VA in the country. He had been let go all 3 times, and all 3 times given a host of medications that are for something other than post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, never kept, never given the appropriate treatment. And if you look at what's happening in the VA in our country as it stands, we already know there's a major problem. I think that you're going to see in this trial, and I hope that you do, a real trial about the VA and how they treated him and how they let him go and how they put him in a position where this could happen. And I think it's something that we need to talk about when we're talking about this case.
Well, it was interesting. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm with you all the way, Heather. I really am. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I do hope the VA becomes a part of this procedure. I have been banging on the VA for quite some time now. They've got to get better. This is our #1 commitment in this country. We cannot call ourselves an exceptional country if we can't keep our bargain with our veterans.
Well, and I think, too, it may lend itself to a defense verdict because enough people, you know, you look at Andrea Yates, who was first convicted but then got not guilty by reason of insanity in Texas when people were getting aware of postpartum depression. And now there's a raised awareness of post-traumatic stress disorder, and that brings this to mind.
What was interesting, though, is that he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder, but he didn't see combat.
Well, that's correct. That's correct. He was outside of Baghdad but saw mortar attacks and apparently had some interactions with the people there, according to his father, of course. And again, you'll hear this in the defense part of the case. He also then volunteered to go to Haiti and served in Haiti and apparently had a big role in collecting dead bodies and dealing with the children there, which had a big impact on him. But when we send our people into war and then question their response to it based on the type of war that they see, I don't know that that's necessarily fair.
It's also interesting. Heather pointed some things out to me that she's following the trial pretty closely. I have been of the opinion that he wasn't going to succeed with his insanity defense because I felt that he knew what he did was wrong. But Heather's reported some things that make me think differently. Well, that he was confused. He didn't know if he didn't know what he was doing. So
for everything that someone from the prosecution side can point out and say this is a sign that he knew right from wrong, there is a counter to that in something that he said. So when he says, I killed them because they weren't talking to me in the car, there's also a statement that, but they're going to forgive me, it's no problem. Clearly there's some disconnect there.
But then he knew to flee, though. The other side is that he knew to
that
flee.
That first
or he
statement tells you a great deal. I mean,
I just wonder again, can he get a fair trial? Considering that Chris Kyle is now an American icon, that American Sniper cleared a $300 million mark at the box office this weekend, that there's a New York Times bestseller that Chris Kyle wrote. All of those things, I mean, it's going to be an uphill battle.
You know what,
Joe, I mean, listen, you've got so many trials out there where that's a question. Here you've got 10 of the jurors are women. I haven't seen American Sniper. I know about it because I've been reporting on this. But there are enough people out there who aren't as into the mainstream media and into what's being reported that I think that he can get a fair trial.
And I would predict if we continue to hear testimony similar to what Heather just said, you'll see a deal made before this trial is over to commit him to an insane
asylum. And he was trying to get help a number of times,
yes,
right?
Yeah,
he was on medication. What was he on? Antipsychotic medication?
He was on a number. He was on lithium, risperidone, a bunch of medications, antidepressants, and that type of thing.
What's hard to understand is when somebody is determined to be or diagnosed as being potentially harmful to others, and they're given medication, and then they're just released.
Well, and that's the problem. We get back to the same issue, the problem with the VA, and whether or not there's an issue where you have these wait lists and the inability to treat people. Is this a symptom of that problem?
And remember, this is a 4-course meal, and we have to get to our second course, which will be more like a dessert at this point because you only have about 90 seconds, but I'm sure you can be pithy in this situation.
My potluck has been decimated. Well, I'll just do it as a comment then. Okay. John Boehner's ticking me off. He actually wants us to believe that now that the House has done their job and passed legislation saying that they're going to link the president's immigration actions to funding the Department of Homeland Security. And now he's trying to say, well, it's all up to the Senate. We've done our job. How stupid does he think we are? Of course the Senate's not going to pass that. Of course there will be a filibuster, despite the fact that a few members of the House are saying, well, they should get rid of the filibuster now that they've had control for 6 weeks. We're not that stupid. If it happens, if they don't fund the Department of Homeland Security, we will know who is responsible. John Boehner, quit thinking Americans are so stupid.
10 seconds, do you think the government will actually be shut down? Because
Well, it's not the government, it's the Department of Homeland Security.
That's what I mean, that government
It
agency.
very well could be. It very well could be. And if he thinks Democrats are going to take the rap, he's in for a rude surprise.
I'm just not sure the impact. If it's shut down, from what I've read, I'm not sure of the impact.
Well, because of those who have to work anyhow.
And on that note, coming up next, we have more potluck, and a little later we'll be talking about Saturday Night Live. Stick with us. This is the Daily Wrap. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. I am Joe Concha, and we are continuing with our daily potluck. Now, this is my favorite part of the show. You already know that. Where each of us brings a story to the show, just like bringing a dish to potluck dinner. So, Lisa, what do you got for us tonight?
Well, President Obama last week, in the middle of everything that's going on in the world, he created a video in the hopes of attracting young people to enroll in Obamacare. And the video was him with a selfie stick, as well as goofing off, mugging in front of the camera, for the camera in a mirror, unsuccessfully dunking a cookie in milk and so forth. Basically a bit of a silly video. However, this was on BuzzFeed. Now, BuzzFeed attracts 75 million millennials a month in this country alone.
Amazing.
Right.
Within 2 hours, 2.6 million people viewed this. So, is this clever marketing? On one hand, he's trying to reach a certain audience. My thing is not so much did I like it. No, I have to personally say I really didn't like it. But going beyond that and saying, okay, the White House obviously thinks this is a good thing to do, I think the timing of it isn't the best. With what is going on, and we're seeing killings and beheadings and so forth, I don't feel that the president should necessarily be putting out a video like this for the public.
Here's the thing, Rick Unger. He's not running for re-election as far as I
not.
know. So reaching out to millennials and making sure he's... I get it if it's 2011 or 2012. When I see this, it's awkward to watch.
Well,
I gotta be honest
I
with you.
didn't think so, and he's not running for office, but he is trying to get people to sign up for the health insurance plan before this past Sunday's deadline. Look, I take your point that there's terrible things going on in the world, but there's always terrible things going on in the world. And you know what? It's important. It's as important to save lives by getting people to get health insurance as it is to be morose about people
Not morose,
who are being
but does he
sadly
have to
killed.
be doing it the way he's
It
doing
worked,
it?
as you just said. It got 2.5 million
But we don't know
hits
how
in
many
no
are going to
time.
sign up.
It couldn't hurt. It was very clever marketing. I enjoyed it.
Heather, you're a millennial.
Yeah.
So how did this affect you when you watched it?
I think it was focused towards the audience that it was supposed to be focused towards, and I think that they like it, and I think that it is something that is very effective. He knows how to deal with that audience. He did very well in the election because of that, and I think that the optics were bad, the timing was bad, but I think there's something to be said for Rick's argument that the timing is never good. This is a world full of a lot of problems, and there's always going to be something to counter that type of behavior.
You know what it reminds me of a little bit? Brian Williams loved the celebrity side of being an anchor more than he did the
little too
journalism
much.
side, right? And I sometimes get the feeling that the president likes the celebrity side of being president more than he does the other
Well,
side of it,
he
which is
likes a
governing.
lot.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how to put this because I know better. Let's just say it that way. No, he really doesn't, actually. This president would be much happier if he didn't have to see anybody except his 3 or 4 close friends. So I don't think
He
that's
doesn't
true.
like the camera, the media,
No,
or
he really doesn't.
Really?
Actually. No, but it's a big part of his job. If you ask me, I would say he needs to do more of it. He doesn't like selling.
Because when I don't like a camera, I don't call the girl who's in a hot tub with
With
a
cereal.
regular
With
bathtub
a
with
bathtub
Fruit
with
Loops.
Fruit Loops.
In other words, he's going out of his way. I know. I get what you're saying.
Right. When he's got 2 young daughters, you got to remember that too. So he knows a little bit about how to reach that audience, and some of it's been done
But
very
he's
effectively.
also the president too. He's not a celebrity. There's a difference.
That's the
He's
age-old
the
question. Is it
president.
beneath
Let me
the-
ask you a question.
the
But
office
he's
of
Have you ever
presidency?
met President Obama?
No.
If you did, you would find that when he introduces, he doesn't do a formal thing. He says, "Hey, how's it going?" Would that trouble you?
No, I would probably feel a little, I wouldn't expect it.
A conversation I have a feeling.
No.
Okay,
That's a
same
little, no.
A conversation I have a feeling we'll be having again, but we can't step on my potluck.
Yeah,
only got
yes,
90
we
seconds.
can.
Anyway, I read with interest a story today about a university, University of Denver, that is now offering a course teaching students how to sell pot effectively. Now, I get in Colorado that it's legal, right? And that's all well and good, and there are businesses that are doing very well, and obviously the revenue's there, and these kids probably need to know what needs to go into starting a business in this area.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just get this feeling that pot is now just so universally accepted. All right, and I'm not a prude. I did it a couple of times in college. I admit this. All right? But at the same time, it's like there are no ramifications for making pot legal, and now we're going to teach courses in it, and it's completely mainstream, and everybody forgets this one little fact, that there are already kids texting and driving already, and then there's drunk driving, and then you're going to have driving while high, and no one considers all of these ramifications, and now we're offering courses?
Your premise is way off.
Okay.
They're not teaching kids in law school how to go into the pot
Not law
business.
school, undergrad.
Well, in whatever school. I mean, I went to law
Business school.
school. I mean, I took, well, but I think the article, though, was about
Was it-
law
was it
school.
law
There are,
school or-
but there are other.
So
other
I
universities
took
teaching the same
entertainment law in law school. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
teaching me how to sing or start a rock and roll band. They're teaching you the law of that's relevant to those industries. Same thing with undergraduate. I'm sure they're not teaching you how to grow
Well,
pot.
but even if they
No,
are,
I know, but it
might
just
be
even if
next,
they
though.
are, listen, it's legal. It's legal there, so somebody needs to know how to do it legally.
A business is a business. It seems like they're specifically focusing on this because so they can
But
fill
they
a
do
classroom.
in a
And
lot
everybody's
of them.
taking that course. Anyway, we got to go. Coming up next, NBC brings down the house with the 40th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. This is the Daily Wrap only on Newsmax TV.